I think a lot of people would read a headline like InfoWars declares bankruptcy, and you would assume that like, aha, the ship is going down.
Right.
And that might be hasty. That might not be immediately forthcoming, but it could be part of the process that ends to the ship having some holes.
I mean, right now it's a little bit, I'm not saying it's exactly like this, but it is like if Osama bin Laden got a parking ticket, you could celebrate because it's like
True.
it's a bad guy.
Yeah. It's better than nothing.
But it's not quite the,
Yeah, it's not the slam dunk that everyone's hoping for. Can you, for the layman or the normie who might not be as tapped in as the two of you are, explain a little bit as to what has happened recently with Alex Jones in the Sandy Hook trial and why for so long he has been kind of hiding in and broadcasting from his mansion and trying to appear in varied states of diminishing health?
Well, I think we're hitting on a number of different things.
Okay, unpack it as you see fit for a normie or a layman then.
Sure. So there are just like from a 30,000 foot view, there's the Connecticut Sandy Hook cases and then there's the Texas Sandy Hook cases, and these are a little bit different, and there's different things sort of going on with the two of them. When he was playing sick, that was to get out of a deposition that he had to give for the Connecticut case.
Okay.
And that was a situation that you're talking about, like hiding out in his mansion, where he had a weirdo named Dr. Marbles who came into the studio and was like, "Hey man, you look like shit. You should not do anything stressful." Uh-huh. And then he was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this deposition." And then he got sanctioned a bunch of money and ended up going and doing the deposition.
It would have been wiser for him to hole up in his mansion and broadcast from there. The problem he had was Dr. Marbles told him that he was sick, so he couldn't do the deposition, right?
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, I'm not going to go do that deposition. I'm going to do my regular show at the office the way I always do. So it kind of undercut the whole I'm too sick to give a deposition situation.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you tell your parents you're too sick to go to school, but then you go ahead and go, I don't know, to the mall or something like that. Yeah. Except the mall is broadcast to the world.
Yeah. It's like if you told your parents that you were too sick to go to school and then invited them to go with you to the mall and hang out and get like a nice dreamy creamy summer ice cream treat.
Yeah, so he got a little bit of trouble about that, and then ended up going to Connecticut on his own time to do the deposition, got some of his sanction money back, and what have you.
But
then...
I just wanted to ask, was there anything to do with not wanting to have discovery occur or try to hide things? Because he had to deliver a large amount of documents, if I'm not mistaken, right? Did that play into that, or am I confusing the two separate court cases?
I think that's just kind of a generalized thing. Like there have been constant sort of abuses of the discovery process, whether it's not producing documents that are just like a big plop of things that like, what is all of this? No one knows what any of this stuff is. Like, one of the things we've discussed on our show was that the for some reason they turned over a like 100-something page comprehensive background check of Leonard Posner, who's one of the parents of one of the kids who died. And no one knows why that was in their files. No one knows, like, it's been asked in multiple depositions. No one knows why they have this, like, hundreds of couple, like, it's got addresses of family members, and, like, it's just, like, why do you have this? This is fucked up. And so he does that. They do produce that kind of stuff. And then
the most fucked up stuff.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, whenever they've had to have a corporate representative come testify on behalf of the company, they have been wholly unprepared to answer kind of elementary questions about, like,
where do you work?
Yeah.
No idea. I've never met this place before. Who are we even talking about?
Yeah. Wow. Or like, who made this video? What are they relying on as a source? That kind of stuff. And so because they did that a number of times, they got in trouble. And so that is kind of the feeling of, like, what Alex is trying to avoid in the deposition is like these questions about this corporate structure, questions about the financials and stuff like that, which is kind of the central question of the stage that they're at, because he's already been found guilty by default. So it's kind of just about like, what is the penalty?
Yeah. When it comes to the massive dump of just raw information of which they have no idea what the stuff is for, is this kind of like the Gish Gallop of I don't know, discovery? Is that what you could best describe it as? Are you just trying to like info dump so that they will have to spend hours and resources, because it costs time for lawyers to comb through everything that he's giving them, right?
Yeah, maybe that might be a fitting analogy. I mean, like I think it's partially a tactic like that, and partially just disrespect and laziness. Like,
Yeah.
it feels that way a little bit.
I mean, in the Occam's razor equation here, the simplest explanation is always that they're either lazy or stupid. So ascribing some sort of higher order of strategizing is, I think, a losing battle, generally speaking.
Fair enough. So then there was a victory, if I'm not mistaken, recently, in which Alex Jones was ordered to pay, or was found. Like there was a significant victory.
The damages, the $1 million.
Oh yeah. He got hit with $1 million sanction of like paying for court fees and lawyers fees for both the Sandy Hook cases, and then also InfoWars is being sued because they misidentified Marcel Fontaine as the shooter in the Parkland shooting, and so they were ordered to pay the legal fees for that as well, and that all added up to a little over $1 million.
Little over, yeah.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, lest you think he's only being sued for one set of monstrous behaviors. This one was a different, completely separate set of monstrous behavior.
Okay, independent from that. So in the total of the amounts that he's had to pay so far, do you think any of them are actually significantly damaging? Specifically because we just got that Daily Beast article, I think like 4 months ago or whatever, that revealed that like the company itself makes over like $100 million in so many years from the dick pills and all the other things that he sells.
Well, it's kind of tough to say. I mean, like, I think Jordan and I both have a slightly different perspective on these sanctions, and that, like, I think they're pretty high, and Jordan thinks bump them up. Be much higher.
Can I agree with both of you? I mean, it seems like they're totally large amounts, but I also think I would agree that he should probably be paying lots and lots of money for all the damage he's done.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, I think they are significant amounts. Like I think that we can draw assumptions from the stuff that was in that article about his finances, but I don't know if that gives like a concrete picture of like how much money they're actually bringing in gross. You know, like how much of it goes to the payroll and to buying.
You mean net?
Yes. Yep. See,
Yeah.
I don't
mix between gross and net. Yeah. No. I understood what you were saying.
I know as much about finances as I do about getting this camera set up.
I will say that there's a good chance that he's hiding at anywhere from tens of millions of dollars all the way up to intermediate hundreds, something like that. And a good judgment will be several $1 billion against him. That's my feeling. I think the Constitution probably says something about that, but that's what I would go with.
But you would say something like that because it would just effectively bankrupt him, right? And shut down the InfoWars empire, ideally.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, here's the problem is this, right? We're suing him to get him to stop behaviors. Because you can't criminalize it.
To be clear, we're not suing.
We're not suing. No. Nobody's. We're not suing anybody.
The people.
The people. The problem is that he's not going to stop those. Even if you sue him for $10 million, and he still can run his show, he's going to keep choosing those behaviors. We've seen it for the past 5 years.
Well, okay. Then I was going to ask. Another really major thing that just happened was the declaration of or filing for bankruptcy of InfoWars, correct? The company, not the person though. Alex Jones separate. He's not declaring bankruptcy. It's InfoWars, the company.
Right.
Can you can you lead us into that? Because I want to ask, after you've kind of described it a little bit, is this potentially a way for him to transfer assets while he can before they come after them?
No.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. That would be very illegal.
Okay.
What it would be at best is, and I think that, just from everything you can see in his pattern of behavior and the reporting surrounding this, it's pretty clear to me, like, obviously I couldn't prove this, but I would be very comfortable saying that this is a tactic to get the civil litigation stalled. Because anytime that there is a bankruptcy in an entity that's being sued in a civil court, it puts a halt to that
civil litigation while they're restructuring to evaluate the actual assets and such.
Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the reason, I believe. I mean, just because of that effect is why we're not going to Austin on Sunday.
Right. I mean, I think the results probably tell you the motive behind them better than we could guess. But
well, and then we just had the trustees, the U.S. trustees, put in an opinion that this is an abuse of the bankruptcy process. And so a lot of this is still kind of like ongoing and sorting out. So it's really tough to even say like how, like what effect this is going to have. I know as much as anybody who's read like a couple articles at this point. It's very confusing territory.
Based on the fact that he's also throwing a massive money bomb, I would say that it is a stalling tactic and a fundraising tactic at the same time. The more headlines he gets, the more eyes are on him, the more likely he's going to get money.
Mm-hmm.
That is a dynamic.
Do you think he was premature then for a lot of people, either on the left or progressives, to have celebrated when they saw that headline, "The InfoWars declares bankruptcy"?
I think it's hard not to celebrate when you hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you see a headline, it's natural to get excited. But yeah, I think in terms of like, I think a lot of people would read a headline like InfoWars declares bankruptcy, and you would assume that like, aha, the ship is going down.
Right.
And that might be hasty. That might not be immediately forthcoming. But it could be part of the process that ends to the ship having some holes.
I mean, right now it's a little bit, I'm not saying it's exactly like this, but it is like if Osama bin Laden got a parking ticket, you could celebrate because it's like it's a bad guy.
Yeah. It's better than nothing.
But it's not quite the,
Yeah, it's not the slam dunk that everyone's hoping for.
And I also think that a lot of people aren't as like, and why would they be? But they're not necessarily aware of the corporate structure of how Alex has his businesses set up. So like InfoWars is an entity that's under Free Speech Systems, which is his actual like main company. Okay. And so there's some weird dynamics with that too. Like he didn't personally declare bankruptcy, and Free Speech Systems didn't declare bankruptcy. So it's all kind of a muddled mess of like, what is going on here? What are we doing?
It's a subsidiary of a subsidiary is what you're saying. It's like a couple chains down, and that it doesn't directly affect them.
Yeah, basically.
As a non-expert, I will tentatively agree with that. I don't know. I don't know what the exact term would be, but yeah, that's basically it.
And do you feel in some way that this is because I just want to bring up his health one more time, because I remember listening to, I think 3 or 4 episodes ago, Knowledge Fights, where you were describing him and the way he appeared to be genuinely wretched, more so than usual, right? Like that's not your exact words, but it was like, he is not looking good. And I don't know, do you think that is an actual, like he's got actual real health conditions that are combining, or is it just the genuine stress of having so many things happening at once, multiple lawsuits, he may be called to testify, January 6th, insurrection, all this?
I would say that he's a pillar of health, and any insinuation to the opposite is slander. And,
Sir, we shall meet you in the field of battle. On that one.
I think that when we were talking about that, it had like Alex put out like a special report, and he was coughing a bit, and he seemed like weird. But we also kind of were like, I think he's playing this up. It kind of felt like he was trying to make himself seem more sick than he was, because it was in this that little stretch of time where he was trying to justify his not going to the deposition because he was unhealthy. And so I don't know. With him, it's always so difficult to figure out what's real. Like, obviously he's in poor health in
Right,
general.
right,
Like,
right.
he's
He's
not
a
a healthy
disgusting
person.
Yeah, he's a disgusting beast of a man.
Right,
Yeah.
but he's also a liar. And
Yeah.
so it's
I mean, if you're rich, right, and
Mhm.
you're going to a high profile murder trial, all of a sudden you're in a wheelchair. You know, it's like, oh, I'm so
Yeah.
sick and miserable, and you guys should take pity on me. Like, nah, that's probably closer to what we're dealing with.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we are prepared to embark on a mighty jihad in your name. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble jester, attempting in vain to get you to laugh. To our valiant knights of the Round Table, Benji Arnie, Tech Tink, Scary Earthhuman, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Mayred, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood. It doesn't matter what I believe, it only matters what I can prove. Egbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Jenna Tao, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevbot, EXE, Brian Ephraim, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Saren 42, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Agent NDN, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our mugs and salute our brave heroes off to another glorious conquest.